Tonight on FTN News, Real Madrid are getting ready to splurge this summer window. Tonight, I'm giving you guys the news roundup for all the breaking stories that's dropped across Europe. Some big reports that you guys have to stay up to date with. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's break down today's massive reports. We start things with the fact that Konate now is set to be signing for Real Madrid, as today he reached a verbal agreement and is set to sign a 4-year deal with them. Big news, but I guess for all of us, when it was confirmed that he was set to leave Liverpool after all these years, well, it was quite obvious that he was doing so to ensure that he can safeguard a move to Real Madrid. So this is a big coup for Jose Mourinho, who's now confirmed as a new Real Madrid manager. He is the type of Jose Mourinho defender. Of course, he's a colossus at the back. He dominates at the back as well too. He's going to bring some physicality, some aerial strength from set pieces, and I'm curious to see the relationship between himself and either Rudiger or Militao. So this is definitely a defenders type of player that's being brought in. So really big news for Real Madrid fans, and that's not that, because Real Madrid are also closing in on a deal to capture Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan. Now this surprised not too many people. It's been expected for a long time now. As you guys have seen, Romano broke the story, and Real Madrid are set to exercise a release clause worth 20 million euros, not 25 million euros. So it's crazy to think someone of Dumfries' experience and level, a guy that's been tearing up the flanks across Europe internationally and domestically too for a long time now, is available for this type of money. Now Liverpool hope to try and sign him under Slot, but now he's not the manager anymore, and they're looking at other candidates and other targets. So Real Madrid are not wasting any time in ensuring they're signing players now before the World Cup. It is the best strategy to have at the moment. And if you're a Madrid fan, knowing that you can see Konate and Dumfries adding much needed qualities at the back, not only defensively, but also from an offensive point of view, and also from a power point of view, because Madrid had to let go of Carvajal at the end of the season. Carvajal did fall off. They were weak down the flanks, in particular last season. Trent Alexander-Arnold had his game time and his moments, but wasn't necessarily the first team guy. I've always felt like with someone like Alexander-Arnold, you have to play towards his strengths, and that is his world-class distribution from deep. He is like the modern-day equivalent of a quarterback, a deep line playmaker, but he does his playmaking from the right side of defense. Now, it had its benefits, of course, but I think Madrid also felt like they were very porous from transitional moments last season, and they need a bit more. So it'll be a very fascinating battle to see who wins that right back spot between Dumfries and Alexander-Arnold. But if you're Mourinho, having access to this type of player, man, it's like Football Manager. It doesn't even feel like real life. So Madrid fans, you guys are gearing up for a very important summer window. You've got your manager, you're set to sign 2 great defenders to add, and you're doing everything in your power to try and sign Enzo Fernandez, who today, as reported in Spain, has agreed personal terms with Real Madrid. So, yeah, it's been 2 years now without winning La Liga. I'm not too sure about next season. You guys might be coming back. But anyway, that's the latest surrounding Real Madrid. We now move on to the next report. And Bayern Munich are set to sign the Eredivisie's Player of the Year in Ismail Saibari. It has broken across Europe today. Personal terms between Bayern and Saibari were never an issue. There is a contract agreement until 2031. As revealed earlier today, there was a phone call conversation with Vincent Kompany. Decisiveness was, of course, the most important thing around getting this deal over the line. Everything now depends on reaching an agreement with PSV Eindhoven, who are going to cash out big on their player of the season. Now, you guys might remember Saibari for his controversy in the AFCON when he tried to block the Senegalese goalkeeper. Well, that's something that I'm not forgetting anytime soon. Absolutely outrageous. But PSV fans will kind of vouch and say, listen, that was a crazy moment of madness, but he's actually a very friendly, very cool guy. But I guess in the sport, man, when things get competitive, you see a different nature behind players. So this is definitely a very interesting story that we're seeing, because Bayern Munich thought they were the favourites at the time to strike a deal for Anthony Gordon, who then ended up going to Barcelona. So Saibari does fit a very interesting role because he is able to play across many different attacking positions, but he's also a player that has many physical capabilities that's going to bring some balance to that Bayern Munich team. Now, Ismail is like 6'1", but he's one of those maverick type of players that he can affect the game, not just with his skills and close control, but also by using his body, by using his frame. I've always felt, man, even like when I used to play football when I was young, getting the ball off that like stocky type of big guy who has the upper body strength, who has the balance, most importantly, the footwork as well. They're like some of the hardest players to dispossess. And yeah, Saibari, man, has not looked back this season. Had an incredible season at PSV, bagging 15 goals and getting 8 assists. Let's see what type of price Bayern can agree. There are suggestions that PSV want to receive around 50 to 60 mil euros, even though his current market value is currently 40 million. So this won't be a cheap signing for Bayern Munich. They're going to have to cough up the money and cough it up big to ensure they get their guy. But I feel like with injuries that happened to Musiala last season, it was a massive loss, massive blow. And a part of me felt like if Musiala was like fully fit and on his top form for that game against PSG, he could have been a real difference maker, and it would have just added to the entertainment between those incredible two-legged affairs between both teams, right? One of my favorite games of the entire year and the entire season. But Saibari, man, he makes things happen. The footwork, the close control. He's the type of player that wants to receive the ball and drive up the field, bringing his teammates up, but also fashioning shooting opportunities for himself. He's changing the pace of the game just like that. I feel like going to the Bundesliga will be a big step up for himself, but I think at 25 years old, he's got tons of international experience. And I've always felt like when players leave their domestic leagues, it's like the stars, like the winners, winning the awards before they go. That normally clarifies that these guys are ready now for the next level. And I think Saibari will be a great squad player to add to that Bayern Munich squad. So let's see what happens, man. Really big news, really surprising, but he's got the Vincent Kompany's seal of approval. So if you're a Bayern Munich fan and you've somehow found this video, let me know how you're feeling around this report, because now, man, we're going to move on to one of the big stories that's been dropping recently. And that's around the wonder kids of the Premier League season, and that is Kroupi of Bournemouth. Now, Kroupi could be available already in this window, with suggestions that Bournemouth would want at least minimum 70 million for any type of sale. As we're learning, if he has to leave Bournemouth, PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, that is the club he wants to sign for. Now, from PSG's perspective, they're expecting many departures. They have to sell players, they have to raise funds, they have to kind of update, add some firmware to their squad. You expect to see guys like Kang and Lee leaving. Cavalier, who's been a flop for them this season. Crazy decision. I think the bad decision to let go of Donnarumma. And of course, Goncalo Ramos, who he's become a squad guy, but he doesn't really fit, isn't really needed. Kroupi could be an interesting player to have, because I really feel like Paris Saint-Germain, they want to have players that are comfortable playing across multiple attacking positions. That is the fluidity that is encouraged by Luis Enrique. When he introduces between Messi and Neymar and Suarez, many people in the football fandom didn't give him enough credit for finding the best way to utilize such an incredible attack, because many of us just assumed that this was simply down to the players and the level of player he had. But he's a great manager that knows how to make great players better, and I'm actually glad that Enrique is getting the dues that he deserves. I always thought this guy was phenomenal. I watched a lot of that Barcelona front three. Of course, I'm going to watch that for my own football education. It wasn't just their front three being good enough. It was the assist and the balance. I can really get into this. So, Kroupi, he could have a really interesting time at PSG, but I don't think it would be for the most positive reasons, in my opinion. So, you guys have to hear me out on this. My fear with Kroupi is that what if he becomes another Hugo Ekitike, where you're making the step up maybe a bit too soon? Are you necessarily going to be ready to kind of steal that spot from Dembele, from Kvaratskhelia, from Dubé, who's only getting better? I mean, this guy's clocking in 15.4 kilometers in a Champions League final. Look at the upper body strength. This guy's finding new levels for himself. And of course, Bradley Barcola, the amount of goals he banged in for fun in Ligue. That's a very difficult front line to get into. Now, if he replaces Ramos, which ideally he would be obviously doing, he'll get enough minutes, but there won't be consistent enough minutes that's going to aid towards his development. And I think if I was his agent, if I was his team, I'd be like, I'd remain at Bournemouth for at least another season or two. You're only 19 years old. You don't have to rush things just yet. Yeah? Stay at Bournemouth, get another big contract extension when you're 21. Then you're ready for the next stage, because then there'll be clubs that will have guaranteed minutes and positions to give you. My fear is if he goes to that PSG team, he might end up like another Ekitike. Clearly, he had the talent. He had the talent for days, but the minutes was not there to really utilize that. Maybe I'm being a bit too negative. For me, I just want to see top prospects like this doing things the right way sometimes. Not that he's taking a shortcut, because he deserves the attention he's getting after the 13 goals he banged in the Premier League. He's showing case he's got that natural footballing brilliance as well too, with his instinctive finishes, his ability to play across the lines as well. He's a sharp shooter, and he's very skillful and very direct. But a part of me also feels, is he benefiting playing for a Bournemouth team that kind of utilize him as a second striker in a way? It makes sense because he isn't physically developed enough just yet to maybe be that guy that leads the line. And if he remains at Bournemouth, grow into your body, boost your stature a little bit, and then you'll be ready for the next level. That's only my thoughts and opinions, but if you're PSG, you're not signing these guys for no reason, right? I think with that fluid, versatile front three, Kroupi could definitely maybe learn from brilliant attacking players like this. You know, you can kind of forget about his physical type of frailties because he'll be constantly moving in and out different positions alongside his attacking teammates. And maybe PSG want a project they can build and grow over time in case anything happens to guys like Dembele's and Co. So, you know, there's two ways to view this, but I think the thing we can all agree on is that Kroupi is an excellent, exciting talent. And I just want the best for this kid, man, because I want to see these guys now growing and being the best they can be. So share your thoughts and opinions on Kroupi. Do you think he'll be leaving for PSG? Is it overkill? Let me know, because now we have another story involving Paris Saint-Germain. And this is a pretty interesting one because over the last 24 hours, a report emerged suggesting that Diomande had agreed personal terms with Paris Saint-Germain. Now, this made Liverpool fans' hearts sink because Liverpool are desperately trying to get a move over the line for Yann Diomande. Diomande, as we know from RB Leipzig, they've slapped on a 100 million release clause because it's a prohibitive asking price to try and put off potential suitors. They want to keep their guy. And to be fair, Leipzig are in a situation where they're forced to have to sell. They're financially safe. They're good, as you've seen with recent deals like Sechko and many others and Kunku's. They sell at the price that they're happy with. And that's normally the maximum amount of money. Now, 100 million euros for the big clubs might be the way to go, considering they are competing with each other for the services of a few amount of players, right? Diomande, similar to guys like Kroupi and Doué, he is a player that's comfortable playing across all attacking lines. He can carry from any zone on the field as well. I've always felt like this is the type of player that can really add that X factor to a team. And similar to Kroupi at 19 years old, after having his breakthrough season, which was very profitable at Leipzig, I guess maybe he's a player that could fall into that project mode so that you can kind of develop and hone and put your arm around. But my fear is, man, it's always going to come down to the amount of game time that is needed, right? Are you going to get enough consistency and momentum to really take advantage of all these opportunities, right? Let's see. For Diomande, he's got PSG, he's got Liverpool. For Kroupi, Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain, Man City, even Bayern Munich. Everyone's looking at this kid, right? bro, for me, for both these guys, think about remaining for one more season until you become absolutely undeniable for these big teams and they're forced to have to buy you. But anyway, it seems like it was premature that Paris Saint-Germain had agreed personal terms that was rebuffed by Florian Plettenberg. Nothing had been agreed upon. So there's still much to fight for in regards to Diomande. I'm surprised that Bayern Munich didn't try to make a move. I mean, they have the funds, no? I mean, they got the money, they got the stature. I thought maybe this would be like the main guy they'd be signing this summer, but it seems their attentions have diverted elsewhere. Let's see if a club actually decides to pay the release clause money, because it really feels like Leipzig are playing hardball. Yeah, if you want this guy, here's the amount of money you have to pay for. So my friends, we're going to end things now with the final story. And this is focused around Tottenham, because Tottenham are trying to do a double raid for Man City stars Nico Gonzalez and Savinho. They're going round 2 for Savinho. Romano broke these reports. Of course, negotiations are currently ongoing for Savinho to Tottenham. As revealed 2 weeks ago, Tottenham believe that Savinho now wants to move compared to last season, where he was very close to signing for them near the end of the window until Man City decided they need to have the competition in the squad. So talks will continue. But there's another update that's emerged coming from this account on Twitter. And it seems like Spurs are also making inquiries around the availability for Nico Gonzalez during the same negotiations with Savinho. Now, the topic of Gonzalez has been raised by Tottenham during negotiations. As we know, they want to get the conditions to find out if a double rate can happen. Because if a double rate can happen, hopefully that brings down the overall price instead of you paying the same, or, paying a lot of money individually for 2 transfers. Now, De Zerbi is the admirer of Gonzalez. Wants to have him. He feels like his box-to-box threats could be great, adds some physicality to that Spurs team. He's confident under pressure. I mean, Gonzalez came from the renowned La Masia Academy. I always thought this guy would have a decent career. He left Barca for Valencia to get minutes, found himself at FC Porto to develop, and I think he's been like an all-right understudy at Man City, but I don't necessarily feel he's like the Rodri type of clone that City had tried to kind of hold him into. I think Gonzalez has a goal threat. He wants to get forward a little bit more. He wants to be a bit more dynamic instead of like sitting and holding. So from a tactical perspective, it does make sense that maybe Man City now will look to kind of move him on and bring in players that kind of suit that role. Now, of course, Gonzalez wants to secure himself more consistent minutes. That might get harder if Man City secure Elliot Anderson, or if they make moves for Enzo or others. So he has to kind of think about the future. So yeah, Spurs were in a very interesting situation. They just about survived Premier League football end of last season, but there is some promise now. I mean, I think they benefit from the fact that they are located in London, meaning that a lot of players are enticed to live in the city. De Zerbi agrees to come there. I think he'll do really big things, and I'm curious to see what he does for Spurs during pre-season. He didn't necessarily get all his ideas working because he had such a short amount of time to do that. But this is a guy that likes to kind of focus on using automatisms and honing in certain routines with players in the squad. So listen, Spurs have a lot of great individuals, and I think adding Savinho, adding Gonzalez, guys that are won things, who come from a premium background, they might be a bit hungry knowing that there's minutes where they can really flex their muscles right. I think Savinho is a very dangerous type of winger. Hasn't necessarily got the amount of game time that he was probably hoping he can get all the time because the competition is fierce. And I guess when Semenyo was signed, it kind of just ended a lot of things for him. For all his talent, the reality is that he's not necessarily affecting the game as much. I think from 24 appearances, 1 goal and 2 assists. For a team like Man City, man, it's simply not enough. Hence why he became more of a super sub player in the end. But listen, City are going to get some very big money for a sale. Let's see what type of prices and fees both parties can agree upon. So my friends, man, that's all the big reports across Europe that you guys had to learn. I got you guys covered, and come back to FTN News to get all the latest big roundups on the most important stories. I'll catch you guys again. Love.